Hello, welcome to Michelle Sews Again. I'm Michelle. Today I'm going to share with you my personal experience sewing the Logan Shacket pattern from Style Arc. If you're interested to see how it went, then please stay tuned. Okay, so I recently made the Logan Shacket, which is a shirt jacket pattern that was put out by Style Arc. I think it was last year, it might have been the year before. It's been a pretty popular pattern on Instagram. I was inspired to make this jacket because it's been on my to-do list for over a year. I've had the fabric and everything, but the Northern Soul Sisters, who are Tamlin from Sewn on the Tyne, Roanne from the Yorkshire Sew Girl, and Rachel from Stitched Up, they've got a combined YouTube channel and they are doing jackets in January. And I've had this on my to-do list. I'm like, why don't I just join in? So they've got a hashtag. It is Sew Jackets with NSS. I will link their channel in the description box, and here's the hashtag so you can go and participate on Instagram. It's not a challenge or anything. It's just like a group activity. But because I've had this on my list, and last Sunday when I made it, it was actually pretty cold here. It was Florida cold. Let me just put that out there. But it was pretty chilly here. We haven't turned our heat on. So, you know, like mid 60s when you're outside is comfortable. When you're inside, it's pretty cold. It was in the 30s outside, which because we didn't have our heat on, made it in the 60s inside. So I was cold. So I was extra inspired to make the jacket. So go and check out their channel in the description box. You'll see what all three of them are planning for their jackets with their fabric and everything. They're all very different, so you can get lots of different types of inspiration. I like the idea of a shacket because it's a lighter weight jacket, and where I live, I don't have a need for a lot of jackets, especially not heavy jackets, on a very regular basis. And I had seen Candy Johnson, she's a makeup artist on YouTube, one day last year, like early last year, wearing a really cute wide wale color blocked shacket, and it was like hot pink and light pink, or hot pink and red, I can't remember, but I loved it. And so I immediately went and bought the Logan Shacket pattern, and I bought some wide wale corduroy. Now, I really had a dickens of a time finding the wide wale corduroy in colors that I wanted. I found a ton of neutrals. I wasn't interested in that. I wanted like a bright red or a hot pink and a bright orange, or I wanted to mix and match either red, pink, orange, some combination thereof. And I just couldn't find it. It took me actually quite a while to find it reasonably priced, I should say. So I had actually found exactly the colors that I wanted on a website in the UK, but the shipping was just too outrageous. I couldn't do it. So I finally found something close to what I wanted. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was close enough. I thought that I would be happy with it. And it was from a shop on Etsy. It turned out to be from China, but it's what I wanted, so I went ahead and bought it. Here are some scraps. And if you're following me on Instagram, then you've already seen this. Plus I talked about it in Friday Sews yesterday, but these are my two colors. Okay, so the Logan Shacket is an oversized jacket. It's got slightly dropped shoulders. It has a shirt collar. It's got a front placket. It has two large breast pockets. It's got two inseam pockets. All of the pockets are optional, by the way. It does not have a cuff. It's just you just hem the sleeve. It's got a curved hem. Let's see what else. One of my favorite details on this jacket is the yoke on the back is rounded, which you don't see that very often. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's about it. That pretty much sums it up. When you're reading the instructions, make sure that you pay attention to seam allowance. Most of the time, at least from what I can remember, because I've sewn quite a few Style Arc patterns, most of the time they use a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and that's what this pattern calls for as well. The fabric types that it calls for are like corduroy, boiled wool, denim. You can make it in linen, flannel type fabric. So kind of outdoorsy fabrics other than the linen. They're kind of like outerwear, not outdoorsy, outerwear style fabrics. They do recommend that if you are using a thicker fabric that you use a lining fabric or a lighter weight fabric for the pocket bags for the inseam pockets. Other than that, you're cutting everything out in the fabric that you've chosen. As far as fabric yardage requirements, you would need anywhere from 2 to 3 yards, depending on the width of the fabric that you choose and the size that you're making. The sizing, speaking of sizing, comes in sizes 4 to 30, and Style Arc puts the finished measurements on their charts. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I normally, or at least historically, have made a size 24 in Style Arc. Most of the time, the one-tiered dress aside, most of the time a size 24 is pretty loose and boxy on me, which depending on the style, I don't mind, especially if I'm just wearing it around the house. But I do realize that it can look a little sloppy or frumpy. So I've started kind of trying to trim it down a little bit. I started with a size 22. I can't remember on what pattern I did that on, but when I was reading the finished size measurements on this pattern, I decided to go with a 20. And I think you guys will be proud of me for that. And I think that the fit that I got on this is actually perfect. So the size is 4 to 30. The measurements, the finished measurements for the bust range from 39 3/8 to 67 3/8. And the size measurements for the hips range from 41 3/4 to 69 5/8. For the size 20, the finished measurement is 55.5 for the bust. I measure at 50.5, so it gave me about 5 inches of ease, which is what I thought would be good for a jacket. And the hips are 57 7/8, and my hips measure at 53. So it gave me just shy of 5 inches of ease in my hips. So I felt like that was going to be a good size, and it worked out really well. As far as modifications, I shortened the sleeves because I've got little T-Rex arms. Plus, because I'm usually making a bigger size, they always assume that a bigger size means a taller person. So I had my husband, I put the jacket on, I had him pin it for me about an inch below my wrist, or at least that's where I thought that he pinned it. Well, he did pin it there, so I don't know what happened when I cut the excess fabric off, but I cut 10 inches off based on where the pin was, and after I put it on, it was coming up to about here. So it was a little too short. So what I ended up doing, so this ended up being a very serendipitous mistake, I should say, because what I ended up doing, if I didn't already say, because I used these 2 different colors, I color blocked. So I did each sleeve in a different color. I did each front in a different color, and I did the back yoke and the bottom in a different color. And even the 2-piece collar, I did the collar in one and the stand in another. So I mixed and matched the colors throughout the whole jacket. So what I ended up doing when I realized that I cut the sleeves too short, I decided to go back to the excess that I had cut off, and I cut 4 inches off of each of these pieces of excess and folded them over so that they were 2-inch bands. And I just sewed the bands and I alternated the colors on the sleeves. So I have an extra color blocking piece on the jacket. And I think it actually ended up being a blessing in disguise, because it's like that extra little color block piece just finished the look and completed it all together. So I'm actually really happy with how this came out. I am terrible about putting labels in. I always forget. So this time what I ended up doing, well, first of all, let me show you my buttons. So I had these buttons in my stash, and I thought that they were perfect for this. They're wooden buttons. They've got these cutouts. I had bought these on Etsy quite a while ago, and I think that they're fun for this. The other I don't know if it's a modification as much as a technique. For patch pockets, I learned from Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room. She always lines her patch pockets. And I started doing that and I've never looked back because I love the finish inside. You don't feel the rough edges of the seams. And, you know, normally you would take this pocket and flip it under and top stitch it, but it would still have that rough seam finish inside. But I went ahead and lined mine with some scrap fabric that I had, and I love it. So the only thing is, this one came out good, but this one, I didn't turn it under quite enough so you can see a little hint of the lining. I think I can probably go over that with like a red Sharpie or something so that it doesn't stick out as much, but I'm still happy with the lining. And that little bit doesn't make me crazy. So I don't mind it. And then here's the cuff. So you can see that I did each one in the opposite, and I love it. And the final thing, I started talking about labels and then I went off on a tangent. I got the Kylie and the Machine countdown calendar of labels this year. And one of the labels that was in my calendar was this one that says, "I keep you warm." And isn't that adorable? So what I did, instead of putting it in the neckline, which is where you normally put a label, for a jacket, like especially a jacket like this, I thought it would be fun just to put it down on the button placket under the buttons. And so it'll kind of peek out if my, oh my gosh, I'm making a mess. So if my placket is buttoned, you won't see it. If it's open, which it will be most of the time, you would see it. And I just love it. I am not the type to have a neutral color jacket. So I don't need my jacket to match my clothing because it's just an outerwear piece that's gonna go from one location to another and then come off. So I want my jacket to look as fun as the clothes underneath. So this is my jacket. I'll insert a little twirl here so you can see it and maybe some still shots. But let's see. Those are the details. Would I change anything? So yes, two things. One, the Style Arc does not tell you to finish any of your seams as you're going along. So you need to know that yourself. You need to know what you want to do, when to do it. And the way that they have you attach the inseam pockets doesn't really leave you room to finish the seam and the pocket edge. You kind of have to do one, like if you're going to do the seam, which you're going to do, then you're either going to go around the pocket bag, which leaves the seams where the pocket was sewn to the front undone, or you're going to sew the whole seam, which leaves the pocket edge undone. So that's what I ended up doing. I did the seam and then I went back and finished the pocket edge, but because it was already put together, it made the ends, the parts of the pocket bag that attached to the side seam were difficult to get finished on my serger. So what I would do in the future is I would finish each piece of my pocket bag. So they wouldn't be finished together, but they would still be finished. And that way, once I construct it, I could just do the serger for the side seam and everything will be nice and tidy. So I would finish that. I would finish it that way. And the other thing that I would change is I would either eliminate one or both of the breast pockets, or I would make them smaller. I just feel like for my height and my bust size, they were too much. I didn't love the size of them. I'm leaving it alone. I love my jacket, but I would do that differently if I were to make this again, which brings me to the next question. Would I make this again? Probably not, but not because I don't like the pattern. Where I live, I don't have a need for a lot of jackets. So if I make more jackets, I'm gonna want different styles. So would I recommend this pattern? Yeah, I would actually. One of the things that I wanna show you is, I know I've complained about Style Arc directions in the past, rightly so, but they last year at some point, I forget when, had put a post out on social media that they were working very hard on improving their instructions. And I have to say, they definitely have. This, I know it's not as much as a normal indie, but compared to how their instructions used to be, the instructions for this go all the way down here, plus over here. Now, the only issue, I have an issue with the fact that they don't tell you to finish the seams. Once you've been sewing for a while, you know to do that yourself, so just pay attention to that. And the second thing is, there was one area where you have to be paying attention, because on the collar construction, in the instructions, the written instructions, it does not tell you to top stitch the collar after you've sewn it together and flipped it inside out. But yet in the drawing, like in the illustration, it tells you turn to face, press, and top stitch. So it tells you in the illustration, but not in the bullet pointed directions. That's the only place where I feel like I found a mistake. And is it a mistake because they told you, but then that requires you to pay attention to both the bullet point instructions and the illustration instructions. So just a little note there. But other than that, I feel like the instructions were pretty clear. I didn't struggle anywhere. I really like the jacket. I'm happy with the sizing that I ended up choosing. So just make sure you're looking, it is finished sizes on the chart. This one happened to measure the way that the chart said, as opposed to my tiered dress the other day. And make sure that you know how much ease you like in your bust and your hips, and that will tell you whether you need to do any grading or not. Mine, I just made the straight size 20. I shortened the sleeves, and voila, I have a new fun jacket. So that's my review. I'd love to know if you've made the Logan. What were your thoughts? Did you enjoy it? What fabric did you use? I love looking at the hashtags of things that I've made on Instagram and seeing all the creative ways that people have put these things together. So if you're not sure, then go and check out the hashtag SA Logan Shacket. That's the official hashtag for the jacket. So go and check that out on Instagram, and let me know in the comments if you've made it, if you're interested in making it. Did my review help? If you have any questions, then let me know and I'll be happy to answer if I'm able to. I think at the moment it might be over. I don't know, I should check. Style Arc is having a buy 3 get 1 free sale on their website. So if you like the Logan and you don't have it, you might want to go check out that sale. Maybe they have some other styles that you want. So anyway, wherever you are, I hope the weather's amazing. I hope you're able to get some sewing in, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.